to restrict gatherings. I think this meeting just came up about 2 hours ago, so I don't know what kind of format we have for it.
Well, I guess what we're looking at is we felt, in talking with TJ, you know, because he's most impacted by this, we felt that we needed to address how we're going to respond to the new rules for now and how we're going to operate going forward. So go ahead, TJ.
And this, I'm assuming, is at the community center and city functions.
Correct. So as you know, gyms are now closed for 4 weeks. We have the weight room and we have the gym. So both of them are going to have to be closed for that period of time. I do have one question for the council. We've had a lot of calls coming in today, a lot of people coming in. It's winter. They still want to walk. They still want to be active. I don't know. I guess Cindy might have more information on that with what activities you can do. From my perspective, it's organized activities, organized adult and youth activities, sports activities are no longer able to be held. So my question to the council is, could we allow single people or a husband and wife come in and walk around the gym for a period of time? We got about 7 calls and 3 or 4 people from Silver Sneakers asked that question. So I just want to make sure that we were able to clarify that at the council level.
How's the wording from the state? Does it just says gyms closed, period?
Pretty much.
Yes.
Then
What does it say? Organized activities? I mean, that would be the only key.
I mean, it's
to overlook something.
they're both separated. One of them is gyms closed, and then it says in a different paragraph, organized youth and adult activities closed. And gyms are very broad. When people come in and they say gym, they're talking about the weight room. I think of a gymnasium as a gymnasium and a weight room. So I'm just asking the council.
Cindy, do you have any, you're kind of knowledgeable in some of this stuff, any comment? I mean,
so messy. I was on a phone conversation again with the DEED, Department of Economic Minnesota State Organization, and they don't even know the answers to all the questions. I'm leaning toward the answer is going to be no, TJ. It sounds like they don't even know the answers. Every time we have a question like this, there's a website you can go to, Critical Sectors. I'll get you the address. You specifically ask the question. Yeah, I mean, they made it sound like there's a lot more in the executive order than was originally determined. Now they're telling us that we can't have outdoor events, that we can't even have outdoor events, we can't have festivals, we can't have, they're even telling you that you can have staff meetings, but you can't have board meetings. It's very, very strange. And we're just trying to figure out more answers. So I don't really know the answer for you, although.
so Chip, I guess you or Eric.
Yeah, I don't, yeah. There was one question that came up and it was, can you privately train someone? Can a gym owner have one person in there and privately train them? And the answer was no. So I'm assuming the same as for gyms.
yeah.
So could a gym owner have somebody in their living room and train them?
Well, not more than 10 people of 3 different families.
Outside your household.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I got a couple neighbors that would call it in. He would get a call.
That'll be the better question. As I learn more details, I can send them to you guys, but it's tough extracting information on
You
this.
just have got to abide by the governor's order. And, I mean, you know, we don't have a choice.
So, like what Eric said, rec centers are closed. We're technically a rec center and a library. We're looking at keeping the library open. What does the council have to say about that? Libraries aren't on the list to be closed, but rec centers are. So how do you break that apart?
Library's open.
Yeah.
Put a sign up, library's open, nothing else.
But you're limiting people
Yep.
in? Yep. All right.
Okay,
Yes, but yeah, Dave, you're right.
So
All right.
What do the people want to walk or this coming?
well, yeah, it's getting cold out, we're gonna get more snow. Kind of what we saw at the last council meeting about not having the pathways cleared. That was kind of why we got some of the calls, hey, maybe if we can walk around the gym, if you don't offer anything else, but we'll keep that closed for now until we hear anything else.
So could I ask, how'd West Shore Drive come out then? Is that a option to, you get that steam Zamboni,
Well, I think they went out and did something.
yeah, I know, yeah. Is it difficult or is it still icy or,
We did not do it. Somebody took it upon themselves to do it.
Oh,
whoa,
Good.
Just remember that person takes on the liability if someone slips, trips and falls on city
Well, I asked
property.
Brad at the last meeting, and he said on city property, there is.
that's interesting.
I did ask that question.
yeah.
What I have here is, this is the paved shoulders of the roads that are in the city Crestline. West Shore Drive, you asked about that half a mile from their house. When they talked about it, is the paved shoulder on West Shore Drive. Every time we snowplow, we plow that shoulder out, so they do have almost a mile walking within a half mile of their house. People we talked before. We have Anchor Point. We plow, and it's a paved shoulder or designated for walking and biking. We have County Road 36, we have County Road 3, we have County Road 37. 103 isn't much of a shoulder, but that's what that paved
Little,
shoulder is
yeah.
for.
Yep, yep.
So everything that's in pink is being plowed every time we go out and install. Now, if you want to include more, that's up to the council.
Can we put that on the website?
We already have.
Oh, good,
We took
okay.
this map, we put it on the website.
That's
and
the
we're
best we
posting
can
it
do.
out. We're
Yep.
posting it out.
It's taken care of.
So that's, after the meeting, I was thinking about you guys while you guys were talking, and this is what came into my head,
Yep.
what we're already doing. And what we do from there is, I mean, if you want to do something, this would be my suggestion. At the community center, there's a mile from 66 up to Willis. We have the equipment, we have the manpower there. We're not transferring equipment. We could do that now. There's a parking lot that's already plowed for the community center. You could do that mile and say, here's another mile that has a parking lot. It's off-road,
Mhm.
you know, it's not attached to the road, and people could walk and do their thing there, and social distance.
So would you take your blower on the tractor and do that, TJ, or how would you do that?
Between our plow and our sweeper, and possibly if we do move forward, salt and sand to keep it cleared, we would do that.
Your guys have time?
We would make time, coming from the Parks and Rec perspective, taking away that service to the patrons of Cross Lake, them not being able to walk around in the gym. I think it should be our duty to have a trail that's cleared for them at the community center so they can get out and be active during this time.
Thank you.
Yeah, and that's kind of off the road too, so plowed snow and stuff wouldn't affect that trail as much. You know, if we-
Yeah, in comparison to West Shore, I mean, I don't know how many driveways are in West Shore, but on Daggett there's only 4 driveways and 2 are a church.
And
So
like TJ and I had talked about this, you know, if it got too deep, we bring the big blower in and blow it off. So most of his equipment, he can handle it every day, small snows, he can handle. The big stuff, we work together and get it done.
So
That's-
that's a mile each way, they can come and walk 2-4 miles or something.
the biggest thing there is I don't want to set a precedent that we're going to plow this the day of a snowstorm. I mean, we have other major priorities that we have to focus on: the parking lot, security exits, and assisting public works. So when we do this, if the council wants to do it, it might be the day after or the day after that. So we're going to try our best if you'd like us to. But coming from me as the rec director, I think this is a good idea.
I would support that, I guess, you know, based this year, especially on all that's going on.
Likewise. I'll make a motion that we keep that trail clear this winter. Or however long the gym is closed, or the community center.
I'll second that.
Okay, if I could just a little bit of discussion. in case they open it back up and you open up in January, okay? While COVID has us locked down, would that make sense?
Until the community center's open again.
So, you know, we don't do it, force ourselves into doing something we can't necessarily keep up with.
Or maybe stated as a trial run.
So you may want to amend.
Until the community center is open. I move that we maintain the trail until the community center reopens due to the COVID closing.
Okay, so
Along Daggett Pine.
Yeah.
we have a motion and a second on that. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries all in favor.
All right, with my gym and fitness center being closed, we're not gonna have an influx of people, so having someone at the front counter, my part-time staff, we don't really have a need for them right now. Along with that, Donna's classes will no longer be held for this 4-week period, so I'd like to discuss what we would like to do with the part-time staff and Donna.
Does Ted have a need for some help?
Not in the office setting.
Okay.
Is there anything you got you could do, catch up on or whatever?
I mean, essentially what they do is greet customers, file paperwork, write out receipts. We're not really gonna have that right now. Yep. Well, pending, I'm gonna do some more research on what Governor Wallace said, but that would all be taken care of by my maintenance staff.
Yeah.
The thing last night, they were talking the outdoor stuff, and they specifically showed hockey that they appeared they were going to allow.
Open space.
But I said.
That would,
appeared,
yeah, that would be
because
unorganized.
I think
That's the
Cindy
biggest thing.
is right. It's day by day or hour by hour.
So just a couple options. We could furlough, we could pay them for that 4-week period that we're expected to be closed down. It's up to the council on this one. And just to put into perspective, last time we furloughed, we had 9 part-time staff, 4 came back. And that obviously is partially due to COVID and concerns there, but, well, 4 part-time plus Donna. Donna's a contracted employee. Contracted staff.
How does that work with the contract, Mike?
Doesn't impact it.
I would think, but I
For a month and see what happens, and I don't know.
hate to see her lose the income, but at the same time.
Pay them for not being there.
You don't pay them, they can apply for
Unemployment.
unemployment.
So furlough is kind of like.
Furlough, you tell them, you know, this is where we're going through. We would like you to come back, but for this time, we just don't have a need for your service.
Can it take them, what, 2 weeks to get collecting unemployment? Or does it happen quicker? I have
I'm
never
not,
collected in my life, so I don't know.
I'm not positive on that.
So the city's got money budgeted for these people. And now we're not gonna use them. Do we pay them half or something? Anybody have any feelings about
I
that?
think they need to go collect unemployment, as much as I hate to say it, but I don't know.
I don't know what else we would do with them because they don't have need here. All they would do is bring more people into the building. You know, unless Ted needed, well, he's gone, so never mind.
How long did we go before?
The furlough, is it 2 weeks?
2 months. Good.
1 month?
2 months? 2 months?
Another option would be to, assuming that we might get vaccine one of these days, would be just to keep them on for this month and see what happens. That's another option. Costs us money, but it's an option. Mostly for the idea of being helpful to our employees.
Nothing in the library?
What's that?
No work in the library?
I think it's so slow that they probably got everything gone.
And Jane will be back there. Volunteers aren't feeling comfortable coming in, so that's where Jane will be. So she will be able to take care of everything down there.
Any really good deep cleaning you need done in there? I'm serious.
We've had a cleaning service now for a month. It's been pretty clean. And with lower traffic, there hasn't been a lot of deep clean needs.
Which brings you to the other one. Well, if you've got the library open, you'd still need some of it. Tiny, yeah.
So I'm hoping to put together some letters by today to let my staff know. Letters and emails, just to keep them in the loop.
What if we cover what unemployment doesn't cover?
They can't collect if they're collecting unemployment, they can't collect otherwise. Well, it'll just be deducted from their unemployment, I think. That's how that works. You have to report if you get any income.
Actually, no.
No?
It is, there's a, how did that work? If we paid them $100, they would lose $50 of their unemployment. Okay. So they would still get the bulk of their unemployment.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is
Yeah.
that they have to report that income it's deducted from
Correct.
unemployment.
Correct. But they do get to keep a portion of it.
Oh, yeah.
So if they were furloughed tomorrow, then 2 weeks is not covered by unemployment?
Well, I don't know.
We don't know the, I don't know the
On
details.
the new requirements, I have no idea.
That might all be different because of COVID. It's a different animal.
And I think
What
they
they're
back,
doing.
I think they back pay them. And so you pay them from day one that they're off.
I think we should give them something for a certain amount of time.
That's what I'm trying to get
So,
to, because they.
Right now, it's listed for 4 weeks. That might change. It might become 8 weeks, 12 weeks, or something else. Or we might get vaccine, or who knows. So I go back to my other thought of just pay them for 4 weeks and then see where we are. But
And
I'm obviously using city money for that.
what that would look like, obviously our hours have been pretty minimal. Between the 2 week period or a 4 week period, a 2 week period, a biweekly pay period, there would be 75 hours that would be filled in by part-time staff, which is $900. So double that, it's $1,800 for the 4 weeks. So we're not talking about some astronomical
I think we
number.
gotta support
That's
them
the-
for a
that's all
month
four.
And then look at it again in a month, or at the next month, and we can see what the projections are or something, but that would give them at least a month to plan or something.
That's $1,800 is what your cost has been running for,
But that's
4
that's
weeks?
for all 4 of them.
that's, I would. make a
Excluding
motion, we
Donna.
just pay
Donna
'em
would-
for 4 weeks.
That's
This
different.
is-
Donna's different.
What happens if it's extended?
Well, we'd have to vote again.
We'd look at it again.
That's why I would say just put a look in 4 weeks and then look at it again.
Or we ask you guys to find out what is the deal with unemployment. We give them like some severance pay if we can, and then they start their unemployment and that goes.
So you wanna make a motion on
I was also make a motion that we keep the people on for the next 4 weeks. By that time, we'll have a much more idea of what's the governor meant, what's going to happen, whatever. I'm just saying for the good of our employees, that we continue current salaries for employees and Donna for 4 weeks.
Okay, is there a second on that?
Second.
Okay, and the only thing I wouldn't add, but I just reiterated, it is a time frame of 4 weeks, and then we take a look at it.
Can I add something to that too? I'd like to just add to get us info on unemployment, or if we want to look it up ourselves. Understand that,
Yeah,
Well, I'm sure
TJ, could you
get
do
the
that?
details.
Mike or TJ can do that.
Just kind of give us a little update or whatever.
You can
Trying
do
to
that
figure
on
out
the
something.
14th.
Right,
that works.
right, going forward, yep.
Okay, we got a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries, all in favor.
Thank you.
David, is there any concern about closing City Hall for the next 4 weeks? Just asking the question.
I understood the cities were left alone. I'm sorry.
Up to us.
Yeah.
What are other cities doing?
Oh, the county's closed, Brainerd's closed.
What's our next meeting, December 14th?
December 14th.
And I don't know if we're gonna have any more. we can have the public stay out or whatever, you have a choice.
Well, let's see, I mean, we still have the option to Zoom. We don't know the future, other than it's sliding downhill.
Why don't we see where we're at the December meeting?
Yeah, and I guess I would encourage if somebody, zoom into it. If you want. No, should have staff if they're okay with that too. But, I mean, what do we got going on for the December meeting? Is there much?
You have your truth and taxation hearing for the budget. Staff, some are fine coming in, some are not. People that come in here aren't always as respectful with the mask mandate as they probably should be.
Well, they're not welcome if they aren't, right?
But it's too late by the time they get to where they're going. Everything we do right now, we don't have a lot of traffic in here. Most of the traffic comes in here with planning and zoning, and that could all be done by appointment. I mean, you have to decide if you want to protect staff or not.
Yeah. What were you gonna add, Cheryl?
The December meeting is full. It's going to be a long, lengthy meeting, I think. We have 2 public hearings for road vacations. We have the truth and taxation hearing. Cindy, are you still going to talk about Winterfest? Yeah. But I think those vacations could get lengthy.
And that'll bring a lot of people in here.
We could limit the number of people actually in the room.
Road assessments or road vacation?
Vacations to the water.
Yeah, so I think work on that, but I think we gotta limit the number of people in here.
Mandate does say 10, correct?
Well,
6 feet.
keep in mind, one of the things you can do also is you can close that front door and you can put, here's our phone number, call. And then you can try and encourage them for an appointment, 1. 2, if they need to get in to see somebody, you will not be allowed in that door without a mask. And you put the clamp on them right there. You don't let them in the building without it. I would not have a problem with that at all.
Yeah.
So you're saying by appointment only? Or
No,
by
I'm
the
not saying
phone?
by appointment. They can drive up out front, but there's a big sign or a couple of them out there that says, not allowed in the building, call this number. And then they call in here and they talk to Shar or whoever. And then they say, I want to come in to do this or this. Okay, you can, but you cannot get in the building without wearing a mask. And you put restrictions on them coming in. You don't even allow them in the door. Can't tell that. And I think I'm good
I'm
with that.
okay with that. That'll help you.
That will help.
Yeah, I think
Send
for
a
month,
message home.
See what happens. Hopefully in 2 months here, we're gonna be in the down.
I hope so.
Yeah.
This is tough.
Is that a motion?
Yes, that's a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that. It makes
Okay, we
sense.
got a motion and a second to, can I just condense that and say by appointment only? City
Sure.
Hall is open by appointment only?
Well, if they.
Even
drive
if they
up-
come to the door, they can call and make an appointment. I want to
yes.
come in now. That's my
Right.
appointment.
Yeah, right. You want something you want to add to it, John?
I just have a planning commission meeting tomorrow.
Well, the restrictions don't start till midnight tomorrow.
I don't have a problem telling people by appointment only or meeting them on their property. To me, we're getting into the non-busy season, so we're not gonna have that many people coming in.
Yeah.
But I agree with what Mike said, Shari.
I would also like that maybe we have one person from planning and zoning and one administration person here
Well,
each day.
I think Mike needs to be here 8 to 4:30. And the reason I'm saying that, folks, is the last COVID thing, when we locked down and we had people in and out all the time like we did, we lost contact with the city. We lost contact with what was going on with the businesses. We got no information provided out to, at least I didn't. I don't know about anybody else, but the information coming out to us was just minimal at best. So I don't know about the deal, but I think Mike needs to be here to
Okay.
maintain contact with county,
I think we just
with
kind of
cities.
Take it day by
take
day.
a daily temperature and see
Yep.
what's responding.
Yeah. If he's sick, I don't want him here.
Huh?
Right.
Oh,
Well, if you can work from home,
now, wait a minute. They can't be sick of work.
No, I think you just gotta do what you're comfortable with, you know? But try to do as much you can, I mean, don't wanna try to be open.
Okay. What are we missing?
Do you need a vote on that or not? Motion vote? Did we close the appointments
It's
by,
just direction.
visit City Hall by appointment only? That's what I sort of understood.
I thought we did.
Okay,
we
but
vote
we
on it?
voted.
No, we didn't vote. Everybody voted.
Oh, okay. All in favor with the
Aye.
appointment?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All in favor.
Move to adjourn. Huh?
Okay, Aaron makes a motion to adjourn. What do you wanna do? You wanna come up and say something?
Yeah, I've got a whole bunch of questions on the budget. And if we adjourn now, I know what's gonna happen.
Okay.
Next meeting is the exclusive tax rate.
What he's asking about is
I just kinda hesitating.
Tom, are these questions for Mike or are they questions for the city council?
Well, if I give them to Mike, you know, where do they go? If I have a question about why we budgeting 25,000 this year for bridge maintenance, and didn't spend any of it, and we're budgeting another 25,000 for bridge maintenance next year. I'm saying we should put the stuff from this year's budget in a reserve account or a dedicated account, whatever you want to call it, and reduce the budget next year by 25,000. Same thing with that 15,000 on the consultant fee. There's 15,000 in this year's budget that wasn't spent. Now we're budgeting 15,000 again next year.
I guess if you have that much to say, Tom, maybe you could come up to the podium. And if you'd want to put your questions in writing to me, I'd be happy to answer them.
Well, I want
Because
them
we're probably
go
not going
I
to
want
have
them
time to
go
get
the
to them
council.
tonight. I personally have a hard stop in about 20 minutes.
Well,
So I don't know if you wanna run through them, Tom. and
yeah, I
then
can run through them quick.
Just run
I want
through
you
them.
guys to hear it because the next opportunity is gonna be the truth and taxation hearing. And Michael put some slides up and boom, you know, you're not gonna change anything at
Okay,
the,
just run through it quick.
I thought we were gonna have another meeting.
Well, I think we should, but it'd be kinda nice just to.
I thought you didn't wanna have any more meetings because of COVID. So this is my only chance to say what I have to say.
Okay.
Okay, on page,
We'll have the truth and taxation meeting, but that doesn't mean they're gonna finalize budget unless you have till the end of December.
Correct.
Right, but it
But
wouldn't.
why
be
don't we
that-
just, let's just hear what he's got to say and
Yeah.
move
Buzz
on.
through your questions and then we'll leave.
okay, on
But
page,
there are some legitimate things that.
on page 3, where there's 111,500 capital items for joint maintenance facility delayed to 2021. Was that the COVID stuff?
I can't understand you. You're really muffled, Tom.
Is that better? Okay, on page 3, capital items for joint maintenance facility delayed to 2021, 111,500. Is that the COVID expenditures?
No,
Do you know what the breakdown is for that?
I can get back to you with that.
Oh, fine.
So if it's not fine, we can talk about that too.
Okay, on page 5, adjustments for budget, cash levied for 2020, projects delayed to 2021. Now there's a figure of 164,000. Was that for COVID?
No.
And
The only thing that was in there for COVID, Tom, was if you go to, if you're on page 3, these were questions that were back from August. But if you go to, let me find it here.
Like some of those items in blue.
Yeah, way in the back. I'm just trying to point out to everyone where we adjusted the levy for pulling out some COVID stuff. It wasn't as substantial as you might think. It was only about $60,000.
What page are we on?
So if you go to page 2, towards the bottom of the page, it says revenue adjustments from the 9/14/20, should say 2020 budget meeting. It says adjust general fund levy for 2021 budget items paid out of CARES. It says remove radio purchases, turnout gear, helmets, vehicle. There were 4 items there. And that comes to about a little over $60,000 or so. Those were budget adjustments that were done because we could fund those items out of the CARES Act. They were not budgeted for 2020, and they were eligible expenditures to be paid for by the CARES Act.
okay,
Because interest rates went down, we also dropped the amount that we expected to receive from earnings because we've got lower interest rates and less money invested. And then we had money that we didn't want to levy for project costs that we already had in the bank.
that was for road projects and
That's correct.
98,000, okay.
Yep.
Is that pretty much the same thing on page 5 then, the 164? Cash levied in 2020, projects delayed to 2021?
That's correct. What I'm trying to do is get down to a zero balance budget on that.
Okay, and then,
And we talked about that extensively at the beginning of the meeting.
okay, on page 21, at the Public Works meeting this morning, Ted talked about how the plant got all screwed up because the county dumped salt brine in the sewer system. And if I'm reading this right, there's $7,500 that was included in this year's budget that wasn't spent, and another $7,500 in next year's for a containment. And I have 2 questions. We didn't spend the money this year, so could it be reserved? Secondly, why is the city paying for the containment unit for the county salt brine?
Those items in blue are reduced. The levy was reduced by that amount, part of the 164. Ted can speak to the salt brine. There's some cost for us on that too. And we were just picking up our share of that project.
Okay,
You mean the blue ones weren't put in the budget?
Correct,
Not
because we already
reduced.
levied for it. We wouldn't want to levy again for it.
What are the orange ones over in 2020?
Those were items that we were moving around
You're moving
during
those
the year.
around.
We were saying, well, we're going to use this. We're not going to do the pickup truck. We're going to put that in Perkins Road, and then we changed our mind on it. And that's what generated the discussion we started out with on the total public works. You know, where are we sitting in total? Because we've made a lot of changes during the year.
Yeah, I really think that when we're making budget changes, those budget adjustments should come before the council.
And they did. The council decided to do something different at those meetings. The council, they did come before the council, and the council decided to do something different with those. just like they did with Big Pine Trail.
Okay, so you present budget adjustments to them, so there would be a document saying,
No, there's no budget documents. They decided to do something different than what was in the budget, and those were all approved. If you want to have a budget amendment for each one of these, you can still do that.
okay. I just think in the future, that's how we should handle it.
Okay, and then I'm putting my Public Works hat back on. I already talked about the 150,000. I think that should be designated, even if it's designated in the general fund. And then,
And again, we talked about that earlier.
okay, can I
We
just
said if the-
finish?
I mean, we're reviewing old history here. The council's position was, and it has been for the last several years on the utility fund, is to make the cash come out to a net zero. They haven't reserved things. If they want to do that, I provided an avenue for the council to do that earlier today.
But
That's
what
still an
I'm
option.
still saying, Mike, is the taxpayers across Lake paid $150,000 in the general levy. Now, whether you want to, play your games of whether it's
No one's playing games,
in
Tom.
the sewer fund or in the general fund, that money was levied and paid for by the taxpayers with the intent that it would be used for the biosolids. The Public Works Commission has in their understanding that money, if we got council permission, could be transferred now to the clarifier. My next thing on that is in next year's budget, there's 200,000 for paint and repair clarifier. Now, if the council approves the 120 or the 150,000 be put in a designated account, even in the general fund, and you've got 200,000 budgeted, be it in the sewer fund, but that drives up the deficit that has to be made up by the general fund transfer. That $200,000 is being part of the general levy that'll go into the general fund with the intention of being used for the clarifier. If the clarifier project goes forward, you'd transfer that money from the general fund to the sewer fund to zero that out. So that being said, there could be $350,000 between the 150 and the 200,000 earmarked for the clarifier next year that is available for that clarifier project. And that project was 350 to 450, and part of that with the timing of it could go into 2022, so you could make up the difference, in the 22 budget.
And again, if council wants to do that, they can direct staff to say, we want to spend X number of dollars and put them aside, because you still have to come up with the cash for it.
Yep. And that's
And
why
there's
I'm
no
saying it to the
undesignated
council
cash.
so that they're aware of it.
And we talked about this at length at the beginning of our meeting.
But didn't you say earlier, they were not levied?
Yeah,
We
at
didn't-
the beginning of the thing, you said that was not levied, and it is levied in the general fund.
What I said was we use general fund levy for whatever purpose to make up deficits in the utility fund.
No, but
And
when
if you
Marcia
don't do the
specifically asked you,
We're splitting hairs.
No,
If you
we're
want
not
to
splitting
designate the
hairs.
money, designate it and be done. There's no reason to debate it forever.
yeah, there is, because you told Marcia when she asked you, is that 150,000, was that levied? You said no.
That's correct.
It was levied. It was levied in the general fund. Because you've got 150,000 in the sewer capital outlay that has to be made up by a transfer from the general fund. That $150,000.
Would you agree if you don't spend the money, you don't have to transfer it?
That's not my point. My point was that
Would you agree to that?
the city of Cross Lake taxpayers paid $150,000 as part of last year's levy that was collected in this year.
But you're saying that can't change to an amendment.
Now I can't understand you.
Yeah, I didn't get that. What did you say?
How is that different than changing our mind how to spend budgeted money for public works in the general fund. You're just trying to make a balance.
Well,
It's just a different way of doing things. You
Yeah.
did them different. Again, if the council wants to designate that, move the funds over there,
that-
designate it, and stop.
I guess that's
debating
why
it.
I'm speaking to the council. Okay, on page 28, um, the- and this is a question for Eric. The police state aid, in 2019, it was almost 46,000. This year, it was almost 52,000, and you've got 33,000 budgeted. Isn't that based on the number of officers you have?
No, it's based on a lot of different things, if I'm remembering back. They might have 3 vests that they get reimbursed for this year. They might have, go to training program.
No, that's different. There's also a police training reimbursement that has 2,000 budgeted. Okay, under the police state aid,
Which page?
it's on page 28, about a third of the way down the page.
417.
Okay, last year you got 46,000, this year you got 52,000, and you're only budgeting 33. And my understanding is that helps pay part of the police PERA, and that's based on the number of officers you have. And didn't we add another officer? So, I mean, shouldn't we? I'm just thinking, as a revenue, it's probably under budgeted based on the last 2 years.
I don't know the formula for pulling that out. I really think I can't answer that.
Okay.
I see the numbers you're talking about, but I guess the state aid I'm used to is we were getting money back for when we sent officers to specialized training, K-9, whatever it might be. We got money back for vests, we got money back for,
Yeah, and that's the account right above it.
mandatory training, I think is what I was trying to come up with.
Mhm.
There's mandatory training we have to go.
Yeah, most reimbursement there.
And it changed every year, I don't know.
I think it's $7,500.
I couldn't even guess it. I couldn't even guess at what it really was.
Well, I just think it may be.
It was a multitude of things went in there, Tom. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Okay, then count 103 zoning permits. You're at 58,000 last year. You're at almost 67,000 this year. I just wonder if that couldn't be bumped up to about 40,000. Under septic permits, you were at 13,000, this year 12,000. That could maybe go to 7,000.
Why would you take it down?
No, they're only budgeting 5,000 this year,
Oh.
and I'm saying you could budget 7,000 as a revenue. The last 2 years, you've been over 12,000. This is on the revenue side, so I'm saying, you're under budgeting some of your potential revenue sources. Well, you are, but you're basing it on the last 2 years.
But if it's over what you budgeted,
Yeah, yeah. Okay, then on page 34, I talked about this, the 15,000 for the consultant fees. I think that could be put in the general fund as a designated consultant fees for when you do start working on the sales tax. On page 37, I don't know, under diesel fuel, you were at 7,300 last year. You'll probably be 7,000 or 8,000 this year. I don't know if there's going to be a big increase in diesel fuel, but you're bumping it to 15,000, you maybe could, be safe at 10 or 11,000, reduce it 4 or 5,000. The bridge materials on the same page, you budgeted 25,000 this year, and now you're budgeting another 25,000 next year. That at the end of this year, you could put that 25,000 in a reserve account in the general fund and reduce the budget by next year's budget by 25,000.
We were gonna do that in December, right? Isn't that what you said, Mike? You didn't know if there's gonna be more bridge repairs or whatever, and that we could do it in December. So the 25,000 will be designated in December to bridge.
But what I'm saying is take the 25,000 away from next year's budget.
Well, again, I mean, I look at the whole budget and we've already got some challenges with overages for this year. And there's nothing wrong with being under budget on the expenses and coming closer to zero in total at the end of the year for the whole city, not just a line item.
Okay, my next one is the engineering fees. Under Public Works, most of the Public Works engineering for next year is going to be project related, so that'll be, I'm assuming you charge off engineering against each project if it's related.
We would, yes.
Yeah, so I was thinking he maybe could reduce that by 5,000. On Parks and Rec on page 39, legal fees. Last year you spent $465. You haven't spent anything this year. You budgeted 5,000 and you're budgeting another 5,000 for next year. I'm just thinking you could reduce next year's by a couple thousand. You haven't used it in the past, and 5,000 I think is a little high. Garage North, the last year and this year you didn't spend anything. You budgeted 3,000 for it this year, and you have another 3,000 next year. And the same with the Garage East. You didn't spend anything last year or this year. You budgeted 1,500, and you're budgeting another 1,500 next year. I'm not sure, TJ, what those are for, but these are just some potential areas, and I understand what Mike is saying. I did this for 33 years too, where I want to have cushion in my budgets too. All I'm saying is that when I pick apart line items like this, after listening to the big picture discussions that have been going on today, I think these could be, some of these could be reduced on the expenditure side. Some of the revenues could be increased, and that money would be more appropriately designated against one of these other projects that we talked about today. One other one, and I questioned Eric on the sale of it at the last budget meeting on the squad cars, and he said whatever we get gets put in the reserve account for outfitting future squads. And what Mike showed us today, if I remember right, it was somewhere in the 35,000 is in that designated account now. But yet on the squad cars, I think you've got like 115,000 in next year's budget. Are we using any of the money that's already been set aside to outfit? Oh, next year is 60-some thousand. Okay. Okay. If that money if the sale of these vehicles is being reserved to buy the 5th year squad, I have no problem with that.
Did you sell the squad?
No, they're outside right now.
So I see in the paper that the Lions donated a trailer, so that's what you were going to use, the proceeds from the squad was the trailer? No?
The radar trailer we were selling, we were gonna use proceeds to buy a trailer.
Oh, different trailer.
Right.
Okay, all right.
Okay. Well, those are my comments, and I wanted to say them to the council so that, between now and the truth and taxation hearing, if you agree with any of those, you guys will have to talk to the staff.
Okay.
Thank you.
Could
Thank
you,
you.
could you maybe list those and then give them to Mike, the ones you suggested, because I have some of those anyway. Just, so that he's got your
You want this,
your
or-
Why don't you
ideas.
just send me an email with those?
Pardon?
Why don't you just send them to me in an email? And again, when we started the discussion today, we already showed that on the current year, just in public works, for about $180,000 that we're looking to plug. And if you add up all the items you mentioned, we're not even close to that. So again, I'm looking at, well, I understand what you're saying. If you're saying, I've got some money in a fund that I'm under budget in, I clearly showed earlier today that we're quite a ways over budget, and we've still got 2 suits to settle on that.
I just want to throw a comment out that I'm totally confused. Because Tom's, from what and this is, that you're assuming that money, like for biosolids, was in the levy last year.
It was in the levy.
And Mike says, no, it's not in the levy. And this is the biggest hurdle that we got to get over here. Somehow we got to have some method to say, no, see, it's not in this roll-up of numbers. I mean, now I'm confused.
Right, and that's why I said, our process has been the last few years to, forget about, I'm looking at what we're actually spending in the utility fund, trying to keep the levy as low as we can. And so if you're going to do a project in the utility fund, we'll budget for it. We'll probably issue bonds for some of it. And if we spend the money and we need to transfer funds over there to cover a cash deficit, that's what we plan to do. So if you've got $50,000 that you're planning to spend in the utility fund and you're planning to transfer money over there to do that, then fine, transfer the funds. But if you don't spend the money, then there's nothing to transfer. Your budget lapses at each year end. And again, I'm trying to get as close to zero on the cash as we can. So if you have a project you want to levy for.
So over on page 27, right here,
Sure.
and this is some new verbiage. It says, the funding source is operating revenue.
Yep.
We don't have enough in operating revenue, right?
Correct.
So we can't get the money from operating revenue, period. Or fund transfer from the general fund existing cash.
Or levy.
So my question is, because I picked up what Tom says, Tom made some statement that it's in the general fund.
It's sitting in there right now.
The
Yeah.
money we levied if we don't levy it, it doesn't get in there. So.
And again, and that's why I said, if you want to set up a reserve for those items, then make a motion to do that. We'll restrict the cash appropriately and we'll set it aside for construction in the utility fund. And that's what I was showing at the beginning of our discussion, is that all of your cash has been used in there. And the other source of cash in the utility fund are connection fees. So now we got some connection fees this year. So it's possible we would have some unrestricted cash in the utility fund for that purpose. But the point I'm trying to make is you still have a deficit in the utility fund and it's unrestricted. And it's not appropriate to increase your deficit to make a reserve and not transfer any cash. That's my point. If you want it, you can't have it both ways, accounting wise.
I'm not asking it to be both ways. What I'm asking is, if If a fund transfer has to be made from the general fund to subsidize a project, a capital outlay project in the sewer fund, then it gets included in the budget and it gets included in the levy that gets certified to the county and the taxpayers pay. Now, when that money comes in, it sits in the general fund until you do the project, and then you transfer the funds from the general fund to the sewer fund to zero it out. And
I agree with
I
that
don't think it's
statement.
rocket science that, you know, the way the budget sits this year, there's 50,000 for lift station rehab and 200,000 for the clarifier. That's being included in the sewer budget, and to offset that, there's a transfer from the general fund to the sewer fund to make that zero. But when it comes time to levy for that, it goes into the total city budget and it gets put on the general fund levy that goes to the taxpayers. And when the taxpayers pay it, it gets collected and put in the general fund until such time as you spend it in the sewer fund, and then it gets transferred in there to zero things out.
I'm not trying to make life difficult. So why do you think that 50,000 was in our budget? Because it's on the sheet. I'm getting right down to the basic stuff.
What
It says
50,000?
on this page, it says 2020 budget's 50,000 for lift station rehab. Okay, that's what you're.
Yep.
And I'm trying to understand this too. And
Okay.
if you knew it, if you had the Excel spreadsheet, maybe you could see. Go
If you-
down a couple lines, and it says Moonlight Bay Extension, $1.3 million. It's in the same column. Do you believe that got levied?
No, because that is, funding source would be new debt.
Okay.
Revenue assessment bonds.
So
If you went down to like biosolids at the bottom in 2022, there's $1 million. Funding source is operating revenue or fund transfer from general fund existing cash. Now, in order to do that, you're gonna have to include that in the general fund levy, and it'll go to the general fund, and if you spend that $1 million, you'll transfer that $1 million from the general fund to the sewer fund to zero it out.
So let's just cut to the chase here. We're saying the same thing, I just don't think you realize it. If you want to set aside money in the utility fund for that purpose, then do it.
I'm not saying you have to do it in the utility fund.
Neither am I.
Because I
I'm
understand
saying
what
if
you're
you want to
saying, where-
designate funds for that, then go ahead and do it. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, well, I think you can do it in the general fund under that area where you're already setting aside money for future squad cars and the bridge and that other stuff. And you could have future wastewater improvements and put the money in the general fund. That 150 has already been levied and collected.
Well, I think we're gonna do that at the December meeting, designate funds based on some of these things, 200,000, the bridge, all that stuff. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
All right.